Hello, viewers. Welcome back. I need to start with an apology to Sidney Lee. Lee said around about 1905 that he had witnessed, essentially, that the Aspley and John Wright editions that he was looking at were exactly the same. And the ones I'm looking at are not. So I'd claimed that Sidney hadn't even looked. Well, it turns out it's a little bit more confusing than that. And as I said, I owe Sidney an apology because he has looked. Now, I looked, and the grey images here are from the Folger's Aspley, and the orangey ones are from the British Library's online version of their image on Wright. So I compared what I thought was Wright versus Aspley and said that they're not the same, and therefore the Aspleys are different. Well, I've just got a Bodleian image of both their Wright and their Aspleys. Here is the Bodleian Aspley and the Bodleian Wright. And when I look at all these bits and pieces on it, I find out that the Bodleian and the Aspley rather and the Wright held at the Bodleian, and I also believe that the Aspley held at the British Library are of the same imprint. The Folger Aspley is different. Now, looking at them just like that, I find it very difficult. I'm sure you would. Even when you know which is the one, it's a little bit confusing until you zoom in, and then things become clear. Now, there is a fourth Aspley, and that was purchased by Henry E. Huntington, I guess, at the beginning of the last century. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, a real one. That, I'm quite convinced, is from the same print as the Folger version, but it's in much better condition. And so I've asked their imaging services department very politely if I can pay them to photograph that to the same standards, at least as the Folger. But they'll probably have a better camera by now. The Folger was done about 10 years ago. So it looks like Henry E. has beaten, I don't know what Folger's middle name is, but Henry has beaten Henry Folger to the best version. But only these two American industrial magnates possess a real version, and I believe that there are only two original copies of this now. So here are them all put together. As I say, when you put them, you cannot tell, can you? Just looking at them, which is which, because there will be differences. But when you zoom in, as I said, the Folger, and from what I can see of the Huntington, that this is the same as that, and I'll show you a little thing in a moment. Whereas the Bodleian Aspleys and the Bodleian Wrights are not the same as them. So, and the reason, well, I have looked at various elements of it, but the one bit above all that I'm interested in is the dot above the I have imprinted, because I believe it has Homer Simpson carved onto it. Now, if you look, so that's one of the first things to look at, and I was expecting just a dot, and I haven't got a dot. I've got some funny broken dots. And even worse, in a sense, this one looks a bit like a lion, doesn't it? But it's nothing of the sort here. So if you reckon you can make a lion out, this is just a face on Mars, mate. So I really do need the Huntington Aspley. But as you can see, even on this, the position of that, on the sides, this fits this, not that. It doesn't have this this underbit on it. I don't think it does. So there. Now, there's some other little things I just noticed as I was putting this presentation together. There's a line there, right? And that seems to be in the same position as this line here. And in fact, this is my generated perfect equilateral triangle, which I'll show you in a moment how that's generated. And that is not just going straight through there, but it appears to be going along this line. Well, it's going exactly along that line. And furthermore, this is the median pentagram, and I don't have a purpose for the second rule, for the upper rule. It doesn't actually perform any function as yet in the geometry. Now, if I draw a line at a perfect 45-degree line from the intersection of the centre line and the horizontal bar of the median pentagram, I will hit this, as I said, round about L2. So there may be a square here. I'm still oohing and ahhing about it, but that would start making sense of giving a purpose to this. So there may be a square on the other side and two squares at the top. That has the property that it appears to be going straight through the dot here, which this S is moved in deliberately. But unfortunately, I don't really have a perfect rationale at the top, in that it should be matching that flower, and it's not. It's too high, and that is too high. I'm sorry. I'm still wondering about that, but that is a perfect 45-degree line from this. I mean, this is a virtual. This point is a virtual Mark Lester point. So, where does that hit this centre line of? It's the centre line of sonnets and the centre line of the square. So that's that. Right, so I just thought I'd explain where that line that goes through the monkey's head on the imprinted eye comes from, and that is a perfect equilateral triangle which has a side the same size as our square, and that is positioned as this line is the axis across these two equilateral triangles, which are placed perfectly on top of this 51-degree triangle. So that suggests this here. I thought, well, that's kind of suggestive of an M, so let's kind of stick an M in there, which is the kind of stuff that they like to put on their aprons, I suggest. Older aprons don't look like that, but that's nevertheless, M is for Mason, and our M is resting on top of Khufu's pyramid. So that's what that's about. I'm quite convinced about all that. So, Sydney, I'm very sorry. You're not a charlatan. You're not right, but you're not wrong. And that's actually a bit of a relief, in that I just keep coming across stuff that Stratfordians say which has no basis. It's just complete rubbish. So that's why when I saw this, I thought, this guy's just making this up. Well, he's not, and that's what's so weird. The two copies of Aspley in DC and San Marino are not the same. So let's just sum all that up. There's 13 extant copies of the sonnets in total, 9 right, 2 Aspley in the US, 2 Aspley in the UK. Both the Bodleian and the British have copies of both. The 2 UK Aspleys are indeed of the same imprint as the John Wright version. Lee was quite correct. And therefore, there has been an instance of someone hacking the bottom off and putting another one on. So he may also not be lying, as I've implied, that he has actually seen another one like this. hence him saying that this is a common practice. So I do apologise. The two US Aspleys are quite different and support the geometry which Greenwald, J. Hall Carpenter and myself have been claiming exists. John Wright produced a set of to be filled by William Astley prints that matches ones labelled John Wright Dwelling. The artwork in the Folger Aspley is much finer than Wright's, including these two Wright-like Aspleys at the British Bodleian Library. So, questions on that. Who came first? Did Wright understand the encoding of any kind? Did he even know who Shakespeare actually was? I think he must have known that it was a pseudonym, and you know, I believe on guesswork that within the printing world they knew who De Vere was, but he just doesn't understand any of the magic. Why did he make some copies with Astley's name? Was that under any instruction for him to do that, to make his look better, or what? But I assume he pumped those out so that he could say, look, it's just the same. It is inconceivable to me that the genuine Astley originals are upgrades on the Wright's instances. It must be the other way around. I do not believe that Wright understood any of the geometry, but I believe he was very aware, painfully aware, that there was some there, and he felt that if he tried to copy it as best as possible, maybe he was going to survive. The position is very careful, but it is nevertheless detectably out. The baselines are out. I'm still examining the geometry, but I believe any conformance is merely to do with the cloning process and getting the control points roughly where they should be. None of the larger control points that are present, the full stops, are mimics of the originals. They're just dirty great big full stops. And the smaller ones aren't even there. I don't think that's evidence that he actually understood it. As I say, I've asked the imaging services departments of Henry E. Huntington's library for that, and if I get it, I shall inform the researchers that I'm in contact with, and I shall provide them with a private copy of that, so that you can look at it and hopefully come to the same conclusions. More news as we get it.